Aloha, everyone. It's already March 2025. Can you believe it? Welcome to our show. Hi, I'm your host, Jason Schwartz, and this is The Neutral Zone, MauiNeutralZone.com. We're on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui. Not to be confused with the talk of Maui. We are the voice of Maui. And we're also on Akaku Maui Community Media. I think we're on channel 56. They change them around, but Akaku Community Media. Also, if you look for an app on the phone and you see Maui Stream, that's the Akaku TV channels and the radio station. You can also find us at MauiNeutralZone.com. You can go to YouTube.com/ or at Dream Maui #1, and you will find us. Welcome on a Monday. The world is having its way at the moment, and it's way big things and all kinds of crazy stuff, but that's the reason we're the neutral zone. We do what we want here, and we're putting that on a shelf at the moment because we can always talk about politics. But I ran into a friend who I know for 30 plus years, and you're seeing her. This is Sheila Cole.
Yes.
Welcome to our show. It's nice to have you back again.
Thank you so much, Jason. This must be like number 7 or something.
Oh, I don't even count. You know, we've been doing shows over 30 years. I met Sheila 30 years ago in Kihei, and I remember, I've always found when I'm looking at things about environment stuff, usually there's a reason people forget it. And Sheila had some kind of an issue because of the cane burning. I remember that way back. And then I discovered she was actually a noted and respected environmentalist who speaks all over the world, but you're based out of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
How many years have you been doing that? A long time.
I've been doing it for 4.5 decades.
Four and a half. Can you imagine this lady's 4.5 decades old? Anyway, she was an environmentalist, and I've known her all these years and respect all her things that we'll probably talk about some of that. But I discovered that she's also an artist, kind of kept it away from us. Spirituality here on Maui, I guess it really affected you because that's where you started creating, huh? Welcome to our show, Sheila. Thank you for
so
coming
much,
back.
Jason. And I mean, I'm on my 4th decade, not three plus decades, not 4.5 decades.
All right. I'm just thinking, only because it's me. Get a little closer, only because I don't want. I'll move this. You're comfortable.
There.
I just want to make sure
Excellent.
it's not as echoey. All right. Okay. Anyway, we're good. Right. 4.5 decades means 45 years. You're starting. See how we took it from 45 down to 30? That was good.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, we've appreciated that, and I've appreciated. I'm I guess, an environmentalist, not because I went out there and joined any groups. It's because I looked at common sense. And I somehow imagined that if all of us would start with that, we'd have a lot smarter world.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Let's get back to your art, because I know we can talk about environment, and we may, because I don't seem to find myself drifting too far. We have lots of issues to talk about there.
Mm-hmm.
But your art, I mean, when I saw it, I thought, wow, Sheila's at the Temple of Peace showing her art. And you had a great reception there, and you were there, I guess it's now a couple of Sundays ago. And I just thought you would be great to bring on the show. You've been on before about environment. Let's talk about your art, where it came from, and how you've been showing it. And I don't want to say, do artists ever tell what it really means? I guess they have their meaning, but they let the world interpret, right?
Mm-hmm.
So start wherever you want, Sheila.
All right. Well, it's interesting. I'm not trained as an artist. I never dreamed, that I would be an artist. And I was in the throes of my environmental work. It was 95 when I first came here. And,
1995 or 95 degrees?
Probably both.
Okay.
But at any rate, I was deep into my environmental work and, identifying as an environmentalist. And I became very interested in anything having to do with energy because I was, having challenges with fatigue and things like that. And so I was asking to, learn things about energy. And I used to do a lot of little designs, just my own thing that I would do abstractedly. And somebody said, why don't you put some color to that? So when I came the next year to Maui, because I come every winter I can for months and months on end, I brought, sketchbook and some pens with me, and I started doing things that way in pen on paper. And at the show at Temple of Peace, all of those pieces are pieces that were created on Maui way back then. The images started flowing out of me, and right away people wanted to buy it. And they said, oh, these are amazing. This is sacred geometry. This is the language of light. It's codes, they're like codes, flashcards for the living library and all kinds of things like that. And can we buy some? And I said, well, I'm not selling them right now. I was still not thinking that I was an artist. But at any rate, about 5 years later, after it kept coming out of me continuously, I realized, okay, I'm an artist. But I was still so busy with my environment work that I wasn't bringing it forward to the world. And finally, a couple of years ago, it started knocking at my gate, saying, over here, I'm in the filing cabinet, So I started bringing it forward. And so one of the pieces that's very popular and very important is called Lotus, symbol of higher consciousness.
You'll see it up on the screen. We're going to put these up as B-roll for you that are on television or on the internet. But on radio, if you're not seeing this, you would say, that looks like a lotus.
Yeah.
And I see what you mean about sacred geometry, because your images, it's like watching where there are two pictures. Can you see the differences between these? You can't see the differences because they're really doing it beautifully balanced.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so for my cards, I wrote a generalized thing that I put on the back of them. So I have the name of each card, and then under there's a general message that I'm going to read.
Okay.
It says, the high-frequency energetics of this art are attuned and aligned to the current awakening of higher consciousness on the planet. This art is informed by my environmental understanding of the interconnectedness of all things on Earth, and in the case of my art, the interconnectedness includes the cosmos. Everyone who views these images sees something different. In general, they evoke joy, inspiration, and a sense of balance and beauty. In this way, the art is activational, transporting the viewer to higher states of awareness. So I avoided writing very much about the images because when I start to see the images inside in my inner vision, I'll see certain lines and certain color combinations and so on, and have an idea to create it. And but people seem to want me to write a bit about it. I don't like to superimpose my interpretation too much on my art because of that fact that everyone who looks at it sees something different. At any rate, this stylized version of the lotus is very important because we are in the throes of awakening of consciousness on the planet. Many people all over the planet are starting to build their awareness. They're exploring spiritual values. They're returning to connection to the earth. They're desiring of community. So the lotus, spirit of higher consciousness, can be a very beautiful image to have in your space to remind you of that.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's look at another one.
And then there's another one here. This one also very important. This one is called Exquisite Balance. And as I sought to understand the importance of my work, that one, exquisite balance, struck me because we're in a time when we're experiencing tremendous imbalance in the earth, not only with the environment, but with our institutions and our inside our own families and so on and so forth. So this evokes exquisite balance. And again, if you have that in your environment, that can be a reminder and an energizer of balance in your life.
Do you use, I want to say, a measuring tool? Like when you do this, do you do it freehand? Or do you actually start and find your middle and curious?
I do almost everything freehand. I used to do it totally freehand in the beginning, and then I had to, I was doing some that had pyramids in them and so on, and I found that I had to measure a little bit better to get everything shaped up. But fortunately, I'm blessed with a steady hand, and so I do that.
I really,
yeah.
I appreciate that when I look at them. Specifically, they really they can create a personal interpretation. I see your point. We all have our own vision. It's like when we're looking at the clouds in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you have that part of balance coming right into it, it's really interesting. As I'm looking, I'm just noticing. Yeah, I can see freehand. We're in the age of AI. Isn't it nice to see individuality? Like I said, wait, this side has one. It's got a little bit. In this time of AI, what do they say? Don't be confused. We humans are still important. Don't stop making your own creations from you. I just had to make that comment. You get fooled now. You're like, what is going on?
Well, and there's a good point there about disengaging from media. If you find that your life is just, dominated by looking at your phone all the time or constantly watching things that are created, try to disengage a bit from that so that you have room, to hear and to see images that are coming in for you, to spend time in nature and experience, the beautiful breezes that we have here in Maui and the sunshine and the ocean and everything.
You as an environmentalist could have gone anywhere. You kept coming back to Maui, huh?
I did. I fell in love with Maui. I always say if Maui were a person, I would have been married to Maui forever, A
lot of people around here say that, I'm telling you.
I'm not getting anywhere else because every time I think, maybe I should go here or go there, I come back to Maui every time because the connection is really, really deep. And
you're way up, you're north, and I guess you'd say more east than Maine, right?
That's right. Nova Scotia is on the North Atlantic, and it juts out into the ocean a bit more than New York, for instance. Everybody is familiar with where New York is, pretty much.
Is it close? I was going to say closer to Europe. I imagine it's, I don't know. Is Greenland anywhere within shooting distance?
No.
Oh. Okay.
No. So if you imagine the climate in Maine, that's the same kind of climate that we have.
I see. Okay.
And however, in my city is a twin city. My city is Halifax, and across the harbor we have Dartmouth. And if you look straight out the harbor, if you kept going, you'd come to Europe. So it is straight across from Europe.
Like 41. I'm trying to think. I remember, these computers have made half geniuses of most of us. We all think we're smart because we have all this information around. Don't think that's you. That's data being placed in front of you. I go back to that thing about AI again. This computer age, which is only a few decades, I've seen such a change in younger people who don't really realize just how precious it is to sit away from all this technology and, like you said, make yourself available for some input from the universe to you directly. Unplugged. So this
Unplugged.
is Sheila Cole.
This is
Unplugged.
definitely me unplugged. You know, I work in this structured world when I'm doing all my environmental policy stuff and everything, but this is me just doing, you know, these divine images that come to me.
What is this one?
And that one is called chakra attunement. So attunement and alignment of the chakras. A lot of people are aware of the chakras, energy centers in the body, and that's part of keeping those, you know, tuned up and aligned is another way that, you know, that we can stay centered and grounded. And this was stimulated by a very well-known musician named Yazos, who used to come to Maui once in a while.
Yazos.
Yeah.
He was living here a while, and he passed away.
He passed away, right. But at any rate, I had gone, you know, that was in probably 96, 97, and my friend Ashana Solaris had an evening for Yazos at her place, and he played his fabulous music, and there were two pieces of art that came out of it, one of which was this chakra attunement. I could actually see little lights at the side of my vision, and when I went home, I created that one. And I created another one from Yazos as well. Now here's one, and this one, I'm showing this one because this one is called Celebrating Life. And this is a really important thing for us to remember right now, is that no matter, you know, how complex things seem to be around us, remember to celebrate life. There's so much to celebrate, and it's also kind of a form of resistance, you know. You're just going to give me all this negative stuff? Well, I'm going to love life, and I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to enjoy nature, and I am going to celebrate the beauty of existence.
You have no argument from me.
Yeah.
Maui brings that out in me. And I think one of the reasons I've just been so energized over all these years is because of just that. When I'm here, and you know my partner Ariel, I enjoy just the beingness of Maui. There's a certain energy. Some people describe it and the reasons why so many ways. Mm-hmm. But Maui is a special place. All you people from all over the world, you heard there was a fire on the west side. I want you to know, yes, that was horrible, and that was Lahaina. But the rest of Maui is perfectly happy and looking forward to you returning and visiting and enjoying this incredible place.
Exactly.
It is still
not keeping me away, I tell you. That nothing can keep me away from Maui.
Unless you're trying to rent a hotel room and it's, holy mackerel, that's more than my rent. That's more than my house payment. Mm-hmm. Things are crazy around.
I know, but you know what? That's all over the world. It's all over the world.
I know.
But I want to bring in something in relation to this celebration of life, something that I learned through Huna teachings. You remember Kaipo Kaneakua. Yeah. He's now an elder and over on Oahu, but he spent a lot of time here on Maui. And I had the good fortune to study with him and to have treatments with him, and I learned so much from him. And when I paid attention to the Huna teachings, one of the things I learned that I have used a lot, in my environmental work and talking with people too, is that when you see something that is beautiful and that is in balance and so on, be it something in nature, be it an experience you're having, be it a person, bless that. It's even if you're doing it silently. So blessing you right now, Jason. it helps to increase the vibration of that kind of experience, that kind of feeling, that kind of thought. And that's something that we can all work with in our own daily lives here is, oh, you have this exalted feeling, or someone has really touched your heart, and instead of paving over that, just be on the alert, notice that, and magnify that, stay with that, think about that, remember that, next week, whatever. It's one of the ways of magnifying all that's good around us.
Well, it just so happens, is it, that an environmental steward is also talking to us about our beingness in spiritual. I imagine that all your work through the years has been influenced by your more than a touch into spiritual search. How's the world doing? Are they growing up environmentally when you're out there? Do you sense a sense of the leaders and the people you speak to resonating with a more elevated presence? I'm curious, because you speak to people from all over.
Well, I do. Yeah, and that's one of the beauties of the international conferences that I go to is I get to meet with people all over the world, and I get to learn about their best practices, and I get to share best practices, from my city and from my country with them, and that helps to spread the word, and not everybody has to reinvent the wheel, But how are we doing? Well, obviously not well enough, but some of the areas that we are doing well in is there's a real push now for free energy that always used to be suppressed.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
It?
And finally now we really need it. So unfortunately, there's still a push to keep oil and gas going, which we need it to a certain extent, but to do a lot of new development and so on, I think that's a mistake. We're pushing hard against that in Canada, and it's something that doesn't go away. I mean, we've got a developer from Australia who wanted to do, perhaps it wasn't her, who initially, a couple of years ago, they wanted to do coal mining in the Rocky Mountains, not far from the city of Calgary. The Rocky Mountains, one of the most beautiful areas in the entire planet that people flock to, and the citizens rose up and worked so hard, and they finally
put the kibosh
on. So this multi-billion-dollar developer comes along and wants to do it again, and they're faced with it all over again. This isn't right. And so nature functions best when it's left to its own devices, when it's left to operate within the divine design with which it was created.
Do you guys in Canada have, I imagine you've had cycles of fire and rain, not to quote James Taylor too many times, but all these things we're seeing across the world now, it's like, things have burned forever, and but man came in and put things and said, hey, I have an idea. Let's put this building here. So when the water comes down, instead of the building going here and the water going all the way to the sea, we'll make a thing that goes this way. That'll be convenient. And then when the water comes, it goes straight over that property and those houses, and they turn into mud. And we say, how are we going to fix this? We've got those kind of problems here,
I know, and
that's that common sense thing I spoke about earlier.
Yeah, and it's not stopping.
Those change it when it's been 30 years, and now you have to move an apartment building,
Well, you just have to keep speaking out about it and talking.
When I look at your stuff, I see that balance. You see,
yeah,
I can see that environmental thing. It's an interesting thing how they go together, like love and marriage, spirituality and environment.
That's right. So, little brooks and little streams should be allowed to flow the way they were intended, because nature created them that way. And when you try to fill them in or divert them or whatever, things do not go well. And I know that's an ongoing problem in Maui, and it's an ongoing problem everywhere.
I can only imagine.
And so, I mean, we're living on the planet, the Mother Earth, who sustains us. And we need to respect that design and work with that design. And I know that we're having more people understand that, and the minds of some wonderful young people coming forward who are going to be working with experienced people in various fields, science, technology, public policy.
Whether the leaders that you're speaking to are grokking this, whether they're appreciating it at a level that we hope can make some change, or not make it worse, I think the word is, because we already are in bad.
Not to the extent that we would like. So I was mentioning that I do a lot of policy work, and what we notice is that one department, let's talk the federal government. So the Federal Department of Health and Environment are fairly well connected, but not completely, and they should be totally entwined. But then you get water coming in there, you get agriculture coming in there, forestry coming in there. They work in little silos. So we are trying to break those down so that there's more holistic understanding between the departments so that everybody understands. And I was speaking to someone the other day about this water problem that you're talking about, and they were saying, well, the planning department didn't understand that. I said, well, the planning department certainly should understand about the flow of water. And one of the things that I wanted to mention, which applies to the earth, it also applies to us as humans and to all other living things, is the concept of cumulative effects. So if you're having exposure to a lot of chemicals, and then you're eating foods that, may not be the best and have a lot of additives in them, and then you're living in a house where you're having everything fragranced all over the place, and just all these things are coming at your body, it will start to affect your health. And it could be everything from, causing you fatigue or brain fog or whatever, all the way to Parkinson's or cancer or whatever these terrible things are. So the more that you can lower your total exposure to things, the better it's going to be for you. So for individuals in their homes, for instance, taking away fragrance is one of the easiest things that you can do to reduce your load, and have things just be fragrance-free. Look for cleaning products and personal care products that are fragrance-free. Try to eat organic, obviously, as much as you can, but that's expensive. But then you can try to find things that are not quite so sprayed as others. And I wanted to mention a very good tool that people can look up online is the work of the Environmental Working Group that's based in the States, EWG, Environmental Working Group, and they have lovely lists of the vegetables that have the most additives in them, have the most pesticides. And,
right, so when you're choosing, do I buy apples or do I buy cherries? Well, cherries are sprayed in a way that things are, you learn that, I got it.
Yeah.
Very important.
Cherries.
Environmental Working Group has a nice, easy list of people.
They do. They have lists of many things, and these days they're doing a lot of, they're also doing a lot of education about PFAS, the forever chemicals, what people call the forever chemicals that are in all of your, not all of your pots and pans, but the pots and pans that have no non-stick coating on them. They're in.
It just sticks inside.
Yeah, it sticks. It does stick inside.
That's what
it really does.
Effect means. Like, hey, there's a roadblock. What is that? Oh, that's your pan. It's accumulated in your gut. I know, isn't it? I mean, you'd think that once people hear that, they would say, "Whoa, I'm not going to use that anymore."
Yeah.
But we have, unless it hits your system and you're one of those unfortunate ones, You really don't think about it until you're, how come I have Parkinson's? How did I get this thing going on? You've been working at it a long time. It's like me when I get skin thing. I'm like, how did I get that? Haven't gone in the sun in 15 years. It's all the stuff together. That's what I always remembered from way back with you I was already in environmental stuff.
Yes, yeah.
You guys know that. Some of you. The older ones. But you always talk holistic, just like me. I may be talking about an integrated action plan, and you're talking about taking the government departments, taking them out of silos so they work together. Because maybe this all fits together I was going to say sort of like it's happening in the United States now, but they're doing it with a very rough, unsharp sword, and they're cutting wildly without being precise. That's not what I'm talking about. But working together creates a synergy that creates extraordinary results. Like, that's how I look at Canada. I keep thinking of you. Every time I hear a policy going on in Canada, I think about, see, there's Sheila. She's made some impact there. Got these people to understand how we work together. We all play in the same sandbox together.
Well, it's been a long time coming, but it's worth it. But, sometimes, like in my case, I've been working on it since the late 80s. So, sometimes I'd be at these big meetings with government and industry and other environmentalists, and you're just shaking your head because you feel like the change will never come, But then you go back at it again and you keep working, and finally it starts to come through. But it often takes 15 or 20 years to really be measurable. But, we've got a lot of information out there. We've got many better ideas of how we need to support our environment and appreciate our environment.
Have been able to get enough statistics of what doing the wrong thing. Statistics, when they can boil it down to numbers, I don't know why that is. I don't know, maybe it's this whole profit thing, but statistics sell.
Yeah, well, you started the show by talking about common sense. And I'd love to come back to that because we were born and we still have fabulous common sense. And science has its limitations. And when we know when something in our community is not right, when there are too many chemicals around, when our drinking water isn't clean and clear like it should be, where we can't just swim wherever we want to because of the influx of chemicals. And so hang on to your common sense and don't be waiting for somebody to show you a scientific, spreadsheet, before you can do anything.
I'm totally with you. We had a guest here with an unusual name. His name is Federal Reserve Brown.
Oh.
Obviously, he has issues that he'd like to share. Very nice guy. He lived in New Zealand where Dow Chemical had a factory making Agent Orange. And then they stopped. And then they put all their excess barrels into the ground. And then they built a housing development. And then years later, there's toxicity. Their babies are coming out with 3 heads and all kinds of weird things.
Exactly. This is what happens.
There's a new show on Netflix. I'm only mentioning it because it's called Toxic Town.
Yeah.
As I was watching the first episode, this was last night, I thought, wow, there's another example of what Donnie Brown, Federal Reserve Brown, was talking about in there. We talking about it in Oluwalu here, where the water and the storage above the water table, and they're moving it. But all the trips into that stuff between, we learn slowly and have rules that have stopped us, at least in America. Like I can say, Canada, you've done, this is just an outside view.
Yeah.
You've done a great job of respecting that it has to be integrated. It has to make sense for everyone. You know? But it is, the environmental things may not have been as measurable before. Maybe they were, but we didn't hear
Yes.
about it as much. But
Yeah.
now you can really measure and say, look, these are the environmental costs in the short term. In the long term, it's going to be overwhelming what happens and how much we spend and how much we have to going to move
Yeah.
roads. We have to rechange all kinds of stuff because we refuse to do those little individual things, and all of us use our own good sense to not do that thing that's causing a problem. That little bit of recycling that we think is nothing, it's nothing to me also, but it accumulates. I can't help but. I have a friend you talked about. I'm just going to mention it.
Yeah.
We went to visiting, looking for a site for a taking green waste, turning it into power, and turning it into a growing product. The Regenitech project I talk about.
Uh-huh.
And I was showing him locations, and we went by the dump, and he said, "Ooh, there's the resources for us. There's like a mountain of platinum and gold in all
yes.
this
Oh.
trash." That's a new business, as our world is doing.
In the third world,
remining.
that's a real business.
Yeah.
They pay, little kids money. I mean, it's a very dangerous job, but that's the way some of the unfortunates of the world earn enough money to eat, is going
reclaiming
and
out of the dump.
mining the solid waste dump,
Isn't that amazing, huh?
But I wanted to say something about, creating change, because if we look at the big picture, we're just overwhelmed, and it's like, I can't think about that. I think I'm just going to, eat some popcorn and watch whatever, right? Because I can't handle it. Well, the way effective change happens is in the community. And that's one of the things that I share when I speak internationally.
Great.
I very often talk about what we accomplished in Halifax. And it was a small group of us that got together, and we wanted to have a healthier environment where we were. So we started off, we had several different organizations involved, and we all worked together, and we were one of the first jurisdictions to get non-smoking legislation. And then we went and we created a pesticide bylaw. So no use of pesticides on our lawns and on our city properties, around the schools, around the hospitals. People could go jogging and walking and not have to worry about pesticide exposure for themselves or for their pets. And then we did no scent policies, so fragrance-free policies, which applied to all of our government buildings, and a lot of people have incorporated into their homes. And then we built 2 schools to the highest environment and health standards. So if I'm speaking abroad, I will speak about these subjects in general, but I'll speak about how we did that. All of that we accomplished was citizen-led. We got the media involved, so there was dialogue. In the case of the pesticide bylaw, we worked with local lawn care people, the owners of the local lawn care companies. We worked with the heads of the hospitals. We worked with our members of the Legislative Assembly. We worked with our City Hall councilors. And it took a lot of work, but we just stayed with it. And that's what we learned. So, when I tell people about that in other countries, I have experiences like the mayor of Singapore coming up and saying to me, "Oh, that's phenomenal what you've accomplished in your city. I wish we could do that in Singapore. We don't even have non-smoking legislation, and our health costs keep going up and up." People from African cities, when I first started talking about it back in, internationally back in 2004, in the developing countries, they couldn't even get their head around any of this stuff because they were dealing with clean water and solid waste. But, 10, 12 years down the line, when I would see people from those cities, they'd be coming up to me and saying, "We need what you've got." And thanks so much for telling us about it. And by being at these international conferences, I found out that even the Scandinavians didn't have what we had. We were a leading jurisdiction, our little city, because of the work that the citizens did together. So I encourage everyone who's listening to do not feel overwhelmed. Take, the little thing that you can do in your area and look after that, and that will be a wonderful contribution to your community.
That's us. That's me and you. By the way, I'm going to comment now. That light, you know that I looked at my last show and I said, am I losing my hair?
Oh.
The light shows it. I said, we'll see what it's. I may make changes. This light.
The donut.
A donut of light.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important that the idea of people realizing that them locally, with goodwill, I'm sure that over time, it's the fact that you were coming back but weren't there with a hatchet. You were looking to work with them toward a solution rather than create an adversarial kind of an approach.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know what to say. I think that's why this show exists.
Mm-hmm.
So we can bring everyone here and realize we don't have hatchets here. We're looking to make it better, which is the same thing. That's why we're not adversaries, right? Russia and Ukraine, right? People of the world. We want it to be better for everyone. So let's start to think about that, This world is a holistic world. If we are fractured, I don't know, we're asking for trouble. That's my personal comment. But it's just, that's that common sense and common ground stuff that I like. You don't have to be, a rocket scientist to get it.
Common sense. Common sense. I mean, as far as the spraying of pesticides and everything, that even eventually affected little communities growing taro in Hawaii. How could that be possible? We be in these beautiful places and see somebody with their little thing tied on their back, some little individual, spraying the taro. I hope that a lot of that has been corrected.
I hope so.
But, it's just the influence of companies that want to get their
or someone with a county truck driving and spraying along the highway with Roundup.
Oh yeah, no, we stopped that. We stopped that. Yeah, and I mean the efforts to get Roundup managed have been just phenomenal. Again, the Environmental Working Group, did a lot of work with that to give people.
Well, there's a lot of pesticides. I mean, they're in our food,
Yeah.
They're in our foods. They're in our everything.
That's right. And, one of the things that I work on a lot, and I never stop talking about it, whether I'm at a local meeting or an international meeting or national meeting in Canada, is calling for the global reduction of chemical production. Global chemical production reduction. Because we can't go on this way, polluting ourselves and polluting the planet and all living things. So we have to reduce those numbers. And I used to be very good friends with one of the senior toxicologists at the US EPA, who I would meet at international meetings. And he thought that was impossible. Well, I finally persuaded him that it could be possible. First of all, you have to have the idea. Then you have to want to do something about it. Then you have to put all the systems in place to reduce that. And so I just want to put that idea out there into people's heads. And if you take the move to reduce the amount of chemicals that you're exposed to in your daily life, then you're doing part of that. You're reducing the numbers of chemicals that are going down the drain when you wash your vegetables, when you use all your products that have a million things in them,
Yeah.
and you're keeping your body, healthier, and that really does a lot. And also, we live in community, so there's this thing where people will do what their neighbors are doing, So if you're doing this, after a while, people are going to be observing you, and it's going to start rubbing off what you're doing, and it become more normal for everybody.
I hope so. I at some point remember when I saw Jacques Cousteau gave up what he was doing. He said, "Look, I'm quitting because we're already past the line. We can't save the earth. I'm giving up." I don't think we can give up. I think that we have to double down and not necessarily fly off to another planet like an Elon Musk. Maybe we can send Vance and Trump and Elon on the next rocket. That's it.
Well,
anyway, but I think we have to start doubling down on these environmental things.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that you bring that up, again, that's a fusion, between environment, art, and spirituality, is that I continue to do my work because I feel that as a race, as a civilization, we have an opportunity to get through this period that we're in right now without destroying the civilization, like what happened with Lemuria and Atlantis and others before us. So I think that's a challenge in front of us right now. And part of the way that we do that is understanding the interconnectedness of everything, and then looking after that web of life, in our daily lives. And here
we are in the art.
Yeah.
I understand. That's why it so well integrates with, it's a natural expression of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
your policies, everything comes out, and it's really great.
Mm.
What are these? These are bookmarks. I know.
Yeah, these are bookmarks, and there are two of these that I decided to showcase.
Sure.
One is called, I'll do this one first because this is called The Fertility of Life. Yeah. So what happens when we have the abundance of pesticides and other substances that we're exposed to, we get endangered species because it starts poisoning everything, so it poisons the fish, it poisons the seaweeds and the limu.
And it comes back into our food chain, so we're not
that's
missing
right.
it.
So fertility of life, we have to look after everything, including ourselves, so that we will have strong fertility and ability to continue. And
ability to be fertility.
Ability to be fertile and to reproduce ourselves and keep other species safe and healthy so they can reproduce as well.
Young people get it. Do they get it as much as I would think they do?
Well, I think it's kind of an unfortunate and scary story because in human beings the sperm counts are going down, and women are increasingly having difficulties. Sometimes they're having a lot of miscarriages and so on because they can't retain the fetus in their womb, or they're having complications, or perhaps, giving birth to children that have developmental problems or whatever. And then, it goes on from there. So when I talk to teens and young 20s and so on, I like to put that idea into their heads so they can start taking action in their own lives to keep their reproductive organs safe and healthy.
And that's not to go too far afield here, but the younger people, I used to think, how can we hand this world over to future generations with all these built-in mistakes in the way they are operating the system?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, where's the resistance from older people who are used to, I don't need to pick up that can, I don't need to do that. Oh, everyone else is going to do it. Oh, the young people, let them deal with it themselves. I hope that's changing, and as our governments. How do we have a president who's so old? Because we're not, the way I see it, we're not built. You guys in Canada have younger leaders, which I like seeing. But we need to develop younger people into the places where their new sentiment, where they understand just how incredibly important to the future of our planet is. Say that to old people, and they say, yeah, you're right, but we're slow to change. This is the way we are. This is the way we are. Do you care about your kids? How about your grandkids?
Anybody can change any old time,
With these mass environmental things, how could anyone think? How could anyone even imagine that it's not because of the environmental things that we've degraded that have caused and created this condition that we're in? I am saying it's time to double down.
Yeah, double down in this moment, and then in the next moment.
Well, I like the fact that your art, every time I'm going to see it, I'm going to remember and really make it important that it comes from an environment. It makes total sense. All of your work just shows that. What's the other one? The other one.
This is a bookmark called Solar Activation. Solar Activation, and that's a really popular one too. And when I decided which ones I was going to reproduce, this is one of the ones that I picked because a friend of mine came into the room where I had this and some other ones, on the wall, and she hadn't seen it before, and she looked at it and she said, "Oh my God, I'm getting so much energy from that. People can get energized just by standing in front of this image." And so that's what that is. It's an activational thing, and that's another reason why I encourage people to go with whatever image appeals to them the most. There's something activational that's drawing them to that piece. And when I used to I have my own healing modality, and I have many times worked with my art, showing people the art in advance, and they will choose one or two pieces that appeals to them. And I'll just ask them, why does that appeal to you? And they'll tell me, and then I incorporate that into the healing. Oh, and incidentally, I want to mention again Kahuna Kaipo Kaniakua, because I learned so much from Kaipo, and I'm so appreciative. I was showing him my work one day, and I don't have the image in front of me to be able to show you, but he pointed at a certain one. He said, "Oh, you could take cancer out of your body with that one." So, each of them has their own high frequency vibration.
But in hearing that, my brain says, see, we take the wisdom, the old conventional wisdom and the new wisdom, and we marry them together. No sense in get rid of the old and bring in the new, when together they work in such a beautiful way. That's great to hear. Kaipo Kaneakua. Can we find them online easily,
Yes, we can. Yes, yeah.
Kaipo, K-A-I-P-O, and Kaneakua. K-A-N-A?
K-A-N-E.
K-A-N-E.
K-U-A.
A-K-U-A. Kaneakua.
Yeah, K-A-N-E.
Man of God.
K-A-N-E. K-U-A.
Yeah.
And he has been quite ailing. I'm hoping that he's still with us, but you can certainly find him online.
How do we find you?
Oh, when I met him, he told me he knew I was coming. He was waiting for me. He had a message about it. I found him because it was when I first got here. Back then, there was a little area of the Maui news where you could find out what was going on. And there were these two tiny little lines that saying Kaipo Kaniakua would be speaking. And it was a place that was across from the cove. they used to have a little center there, and there was a healing center in there. So down I go when the time came at 7 o'clock to go hear Kaipo. And of course, I was very much attracted to his teachings. And so then I signed up and did some workshops with him, and I also had individual healing with him. And one time he did this very traditional healing modality on me, in which he wrapped my entire body in castor leaves and then put a little sheet over, and I stayed about 40 minutes or something with the castor leaves on me. So those are precious things to experience, you know. And
Castor bean plant. You know, I remember when we went to 30 years ago, we went to Kauai, and they were talking about castor bean plant. It was a poison, and we have to get rid of it. See, so it's really an interesting balance of life.
Not.
We only have 45 seconds.
Oh, my goodness.
How do we find you online? So everyone, can you see their art
Yes,
online?
yes, and they can
What's the best
order some
website?
art if they want. For my art, it's artbysheilacole.com. artbysheilacole.com, SHEILA, Cole, COLE.com. And there's another Sheila Cole. You'll know that it's not her work if it's like landscapes or something.
Well, thank you for joining us. We are out of time. You're going to say, bring her back again. Next time, maybe on Zoom if you're home, or we'll get you here. Thank you for joining us. We are out of here. I can Sheila, thank you for being here with me. It's
You're
been a pleasure.
welcome, Jason.
Thank you, guys. Come back again. Aloha.